Welcome to the complete guide on how introverts can master the art of reading body language. If you've ever felt like you're missing crucial social cues, or wondered why some people seem to effortlessly understand what others are thinking, you're about to discover something incredible. The truth is, introverts actually have a natural advantage when it comes to reading body language, but most people don't know how to unlock this hidden superpower. Here's what's fascinating about this whole thing. While extroverts are busy talking and commanding attention, introverts are naturally observing, analyzing, and picking up on the subtle signals that everyone else completely misses. You're already doing this without even realizing it. The problem is, nobody has ever taught you how to systematically decode what you're seeing. In this comprehensive guide, I'm going to reveal the exact techniques that will transform you from someone who occasionally notices things into someone who can read people like an open book. We're going to cover hundreds of movements, gestures, and micro-expressions that reveal what people are really thinking and feeling. By the end of this series, you'll have the ability to walk into any room and immediately understand the dynamics, the tensions, the attractions, and the power structures that are invisible to everyone else. But before we dive deep into the specific techniques, I need to share something with you that will completely change how you approach social situations. Most people think body language reading is about memorizing a bunch of random gestures. That's completely wrong. The real secret is understanding the underlying psychological patterns that drive human behavior. Once you grasp these patterns, everything else becomes crystal clear. Let's start with the foundation that every introvert needs to understand. Human beings are constantly communicating through their bodies, even when they're trying to hide their true feelings. In fact, research shows that over 60% of all human communication is nonverbal. That means the majority of what people are telling you has nothing to do with the words coming out of their mouths. As an introvert, you already possess the most important skill for reading body language effectively. You're naturally inclined to observe rather than dominate conversations. You notice details that others miss. You process information internally before responding. These are exactly the traits that make the best body language readers in the world. The key is learning how to organize and interpret what you're already seeing. Think of it like learning a new language. Right now, you're hearing the sounds, but you don't know what they mean. Once you understand the vocabulary and grammar of body language, those sounds become clear, meaningful messages. Let's begin with the most fundamental concept in body language reading. Every person you encounter is constantly broadcasting their internal state through what we call baseline behaviors. These are the natural, relaxed movements and postures that represent how someone behaves when they're comfortable and unstressed. Understanding someone's baseline is absolutely critical because it allows you to spot when something changes. Here's how this works in practice. When you first meet someone, spend the first few minutes simply observing their natural behavior patterns. How do they typically stand? What do they do with their hands when they're relaxed? How much space do they naturally take up? What's their normal speaking pace and volume? This becomes your reference point for everything that follows. The magic happens when you notice deviations from these baseline behaviors. Sudden changes in posture, unexpected hand movements, shifts in facial expressions, or alterations in vocal patterns are all signals that something significant is happening internally. These deviations are like flashing neon signs that say, "Pay attention, something important is occurring here." Now, let's talk about the three primary categories of body language that you need to master. First, we have comfort indicators. These are signals that tell you when someone feels safe, relaxed, and genuinely at ease. Second, we have discomfort indicators, which reveal stress, anxiety, disagreement, or the desire to escape. Third, We have interest indicators that show attraction, curiosity, engagement, and the desire to connect. Understanding these three categories is like having a master key that unlocks the mystery of human behavior. Once you can quickly identify whether someone is comfortable, uncomfortable, or interested, you can adjust your approach accordingly and dramatically improve your social interactions. Comfort indicators are some of the most pleasant signals to observe. When people feel genuinely comfortable, their bodies naturally expand and relax. You'll see shoulders dropping slightly, hands moving freely and expressively, and facial muscles softening. People in comfort will orient their bodies toward you, maintain appropriate eye contact without it feeling forced, and their breathing becomes deeper and more regular. One of the most reliable comfort indicators is what we call the authentic smile. Unlike fake smiles that only involve the mouth, genuine smiles engage the muscles around the eyes, creating those little crinkles that you simply cannot fake. When you see this type of smile, you know you're dealing with someone who is experiencing real, positive emotions. Another powerful comfort indicator is mirroring behavior. When people feel connected and comfortable with you, they'll unconsciously start copying your posture, gestures, and even your speaking patterns. This isn't something they're doing intentionally. It's an automatic response that happens when rapport is being established. On the opposite end of the spectrum, discomfort indicators are equally important to recognize. These signals tell you when someone wants to escape, disagrees with what's being said, or feels threatened in some way. Discomfort often manifests as the body attempting to create barriers or distance. You might notice someone suddenly crossing their arms, taking a step backward, or turning their torso away from you while keeping their head facing forward. These are all forms of psychological or physical distancing that indicate the person is not enjoying the current interaction. Facial expressions also provide crucial discomfort signals. Lip compression, where someone presses their lips together tightly, often indicates disagreement or the suppression of negative thoughts. Rapid blinking, especially if it's significantly faster than their baseline, can signal stress or the processing of unwelcome information. Hand and finger movements offer another window into someone's internal state. When people feel uncomfortable, they often engage in self-soothing behaviors. Touching you might see them rubbing their neck, their face, playing with jewelry, or fidgeting with objects. These movements help their experiencing calm their nervous system when stressed. Interest indicators are perhaps the most valuable signals for introverts to master because they tell you when someone wants to engage more deeply with you. These signals show curiosity, attraction, and the desire to continue the interaction. When someone is genuinely interested in you or what you're saying, they'll typically lean in slightly, reducing the physical distance between you. Their pupils may dilate, and they'll maintain steady eye contact without it feeling invasive or aggressive. You might notice them tilting their heads slightly, which is a sign of active listening and engagement. Foot positioning is another powerful interest indicator that most people completely overlook. When someone is interested in you, their feet will typically point in your direction, even if their body is angled away due to the constraints of the environment. Feet are incredibly honest because people rarely think to control them consciously. The speed and quality of their responses also change when someone is interested. They'll respond more quickly to your questions, ask follow-up questions of their own, and their voice may become slightly more animated. They might also start mirroring your energy level and speaking pace, which indicates they're subconsciously trying to match and connect with you. Understanding these fundamental principles gives you the foundation you need to start reading people accurately. But this is just the beginning. In going to dive deep this guide, we're the next part of into specific body parts and the detailed signals they send, starting with the feet and legs and working our way up through the entire body. The reason we start with feet and legs is actually quite brilliant when you think about it. Most people have no idea that their feet are constantly betraying their true intentions. While someone might have perfect control over their facial expressions and hand gestures, they're almost never consciously managing what their feet are doing. This makes the lower body one of the most reliable sources of honest information about someone's internal state. Let's begin with foot direction, which is absolutely fundamental to master. When someone is genuinely interested in continuing a conversation with you, both of their feet will naturally point toward you or toward the space between you and them. This happens completely unconsciously because our bodies instinctively orient toward things we find valuable or engaging. But here's where it gets really interesting for introverts. You can use foot direction to determine when someone wants to leave a conversation, even if they're still smiling and nodding politely. If you notice that one or both feet have turned toward the nearest exit or away from you, that person is mentally preparing to end the interaction. They might not even realize they're doing this, but their feet are already pointing toward where they want to go. This knowledge is incredibly powerful because it allows you to gracefully end conversations before they become awkward. Instead of continuing to talk to someone whose feet are pointing away, you can politely wrap up the discussion and let them move on. This actually makes you more likable because you're respecting their unspoken desire to transition. Ankle movements provide another layer of valuable information. When people lock their ankles together, either while standing or sitting, it often indicates restraint or discomfort. They're literally holding themselves back from saying something or expressing their true feelings. You'll frequently see this during meetings when someone disagrees with what's being discussed, but doesn't feel comfortable speaking up. The intensity of ankle locking can tell you how strongly someone is restraining themselves. Light ankle crossing might indicate mild discomfort, while tight, rigid ankle locking suggests they're holding back significant emotions or opinions. As an introvert, recognizing this signal allows you to either address the underlying tension or avoid pushing the person further into discomfort. Leg positioning while sitting reveals enormous amounts of information about someone's confidence level and emotional state. When people feel confident and comfortable, they'll typically sit with their legs slightly apart, claiming their space naturally. The more confident they feel, the more space they'll take up with their lower body positioning. Conversely, when someone feels insecure or intimidated, they'll pull their legs closer together, sometimes even crossing them tightly. This is the body's way of protecting vulnerable areas and making itself appear smaller when feeling threatened or uncertain. But you need to watch for sudden changes in leg positioning, because these shifts tell you exactly when someone's emotional state changes. If someone starts the conversation with open, confident leg positioning and then suddenly crosses their legs tightly, something just happened that made them feel defensive or uncomfortable. This could be a topic you brought up, someone who walked into the room, or even a thought crossed that in their mind. Bouncing legs or feet often indicate restlessness, anxiety, or excitement. The key is determining which emotion is driving the movement based on the context and other body language signals. If someone is bouncing their leg while maintaining good eye contact and an engaged expression, they're probably excited or energized. If the leg bouncing is accompanied by other stress indicators, they're likely feeling anxious or impatient. Moving up to the torso, this area of the body is incredibly revealing because it houses our most vital organs. People instinctively protect their torso when they feel threatened and expose it when they feel safe and trusting. Understanding torso positioning gives you direct insight into how secure someone feels in your presence. When someone truly feels comfortable, STs you, and they'll naturally orient their torso toward you. This is different from just turning their head or shoulders. Full torso orientation indicates genuine engagement and openness. They're literally opening up their most vulnerable area to you, which is a significant sign of trust and comfort. The opposite is equally telling. If someone consistently keeps their torso angled away from you, even while their head is turned toward you in conversation, they're maintaining psychological distance. They might be politely engaged, but they haven't reached a level of comfort where they feel safe being fully open with you. Shoulder movements provide additional layers of information. When people feel confident and comfortable, their shoulders sit naturally and move freely. You'll see natural gestures and expressions that flow smoothly from their shoulder area. But when someone feels defensive or uncertain, their shoulders will rise slightly and become more rigid. The shoulder shrug is one of the most honest expressions in human body language. When someone genuinely doesn't know something or is uncertain, they'll give a natural, fluid shoulder shrug. But when someone is being deceptive or withholding information, their shoulder shrug will often appear forced or incomplete. One shoulder might rise more than the other, or the movement might seem stilted and unnatural. Arm positioning is another crucial element that most people overlook completely. When someone crosses their arms, the immediate assumption is that they're being defensive or closed off. While this can be true, arm crossing actually serves several different psychological functions, and understanding the differences is essential for accurate reading. Sometimes people cross their arms simply because they're cold or because it's a comfortable resting position for them. Other times, arm crossing is indeed defensive, creating a barrier between themselves and perceived threats. The key is looking at the context and the other signals they're sending simultaneously. If someone crosses their arms while maintaining good eye contact, leaning slightly forward, and asking engaging questions, they're probably just comfortable. But if the arm crossing is accompanied by stepping backward, breaking eye contact, or facial tension, then you're seeing genuine defensiveness or discomfort. Hand positioning and movement patterns reveal tremendous amounts about someone's internal state. When people feel confident and relaxed, their hands move freely and naturally. They'll use gestures to emphasize points, and their hand movements will flow smoothly with their speech patterns. But when someone feels nervous or deceptive, their hand movements become restricted or forced. They might keep their hands rigidly at their sides, clasp them together tightly, or engage in repetitive, self-soothing behaviors like rubbing their hands together or touching their face repeatedly. The direction of palm presentation is particularly significant. When someone shows you their palms while speaking, either through gestures or by placing their hands palm up on a surface, they're subconsciously communicating openness and honesty. This is an ancient signal that says, essentially, I have nothing to hide from you. Conversely, when someone consistently keeps their palms hidden or faces them downward, they're creating psychological barriers. This doesn't necessarily mean they're being deceptive, but it does indicate they're being more guarded or cautious in the interaction. Understanding these body language principles gives you incredible power as an introvert. Instead of feeling lost or confused in social situations, you can quickly assess the emotional landscape of any room you enter. You'll know who's comfortable, who's stressed, who's interested in connecting, and who wants to be left alone. The beautiful thing about mastering these body language reading skills is that you don't need to become an extrovert to excel at them. In fact, your natural introvert tendencies are exactly what make you so powerful at this. While others are focused on what they want to say next, you're naturally observing, processing, and understanding the deeper currents of human communication that flow beneath the surface of every interaction. Remember, this isn't about becoming a mind reader or manipulating people. It's about developing genuine empathy and understanding that allows you to connect more authentically with others. When you can accurately read comfort, discomfort, and interest indicators, You become the kind of person others feel truly seen and understood by. Start practicing these techniques in low-pressure situations. Watch people in coffee shops, observe colleagues during meetings, pay attention to friends and family members during casual conversations. The more you practice, the more natural and automatic these observations will become. Your introvert superpower is real, and now you have the systematic approach to unlock it fully. Use this knowledge to build deeper relationships, navigate social situations with confidence, and create connections that matter. The world needs more people who truly understand others, and as an introvert who can read body language, you're perfectly positioned to be one of them.